So here we are, Bill Hoff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
My name is Marty Boozacruz. I've done several of these podcasts, and somebody was like, "Hey, we like your podcast, but nobody knows who you are." So I'm Marty Boozacruz. I'm the leasing agent here at 301 West Bay, so downtown Jacksonville. Thank you for coming.
Of course.
We're going to get into your background and all that in a little bit, but I have to start off the conversation by asking. I looked at your LinkedIn, and all of the volunteer programs that you are a part of. How many volunteer boards are you on in Jacksonville?
A lot.
Can you enlist them all?
I probably can. I won't, but yeah. I mean, volunteering and spending time giving back to the community in ways that I am passionate about was kind of instilled in me by my mother and father, who were very involved and still are. So,
and were they involved
in find time?
Were they involved here locally in Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they grew up here.
They did not. I did.
Okay.
My family moved here in the late '80s.
Okay.
Moved to Riverside.
Yep.
At that point, it was not a trendy area. It was very much transitional. So that's where our family grew up and kind of spent our formative years, and I think that's where my appreciation for a lot of the things that I like to volunteer for came about too.
Yeah. So you grew up in the Riverside area. High school, local high school?
Yep. Stanton College.
All right.
Preparatory school. Yep.
All right. And then went away to college?
Went away to college to Florida State University.
Yep. Go Seminoles, right?
Go Noles. Went to undergrad and graduate school there.
What was your degree?
I've got my master's in clinical social work.
Clinical social work.
Yep.
Okay.
So professionally, I provide mental health for veterans that are either homeless, at risk of homelessness, or that have been homeless. And we try to address the root cause issues that have contributed to their homelessness. So I've been in that role for about 15 years here in Jacksonville.
And is there what organization is that you work for?
The Department of Veteran Affairs.
Okay. So you're part of the VA. You're helping mainly homeless veterans.
That's our program, yeah.
That's your program. And so here in Jacksonville, one of the big issues, not the main issue, but there is a big discussion around the homeless.
Yeah.
Are the homeless is the homeless population that we see in downtown, are a lot of them vets?
So thankfully, there have been a lot of resources dedicated to reducing homelessness amongst veterans over the past decade.
Okay. Nationally or here in Jacksonville?
Nationally and locally.
Okay.
As well. So we have been able to drop drastically the percentage of veterans that do not have housing. So while some may be military veterans, certainly not as much as a few years ago, and far less than a decade.
Oh, that's great.
Ago.
Now that begs the question: could your program and your assistance, if it sounds like y'all are successful with the veterans, can that be applied to the rest of the homeless population? I mean,
well, I just want to make it clear. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Department of Veterans Affairs here. So a version of these programs is available in the community.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good. So, speaking of, you came back from Florida State. You've been in Riverside, so that's, downtown
That's where I live,
west, so it's right next door.
Yeah.
Since the 80s when you've been here, what are some of the biggest changes, I guess positive and negative, like either or, like what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in
Sure.
Jacksonville since you've been here?
So, changes would include the suburbs growing gigantically.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when the Avenues Mall opened. Of course, the St. John's Town Center as well.
Yeah.
When the Landing and a number of other commercial entities were downtown. That was a very kind of vibrant time,
Yeah.
relatively speaking.
The landing went up in like what, the mid 90s?
I'm gonna say late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Right. And so tell me about that time, because I wasn't here.
Sure.
Yeah. Downtown revitalization, was it all the buzz? Because that's kind of what the buzz is now.
Sure. Yeah. I think that if you talk with people that have lived here for a long time, you will hear that. We've been hearing that downtown is coming back forever, and that has there's some truth to that, right? Things happen, whether it's the housing bubble burst or COVID, right? So there have been starts and stops to that, and of course since COVID there have been some large industry factors, but there are real substantive, tangible investments being made now, and not so much looking for a one silver bullet type of a project that's going to cure all of the ills, but there are a variety of smaller individual projects that are ongoing and that will be going up. That if you put them all together, they should make a big difference.
So in your mind, what makes a great downtown? Like you visit, other cities across the country. Like what do you personally want out of a downtown? Because I got to tell you, I hear from some people that are like, we don't want a massive, downtown metropolitan center with tons of traffic and tons of crime. What do you want personally?
So there's different ways, right? So there are different ways to do a downtown. But I think the key elements would be a lot of people. You have to have people in downtown to make it a vibrant, living
in downtown.
Downtown. Yeah. It has to have a sense of place. So not just anywhere, but you are downtown, and that there's a special character to that area. People do have to feel safe, right? And there has to be quality things for the public to enjoy. So whether that's well-designed, well-maintained public spaces and parks, whether that's cultural institutions and draws, or whether that's great restaurants, right? So downtown Jacksonville has some of those things now, and it's working towards having a lot more of those.
Yeah. It feels like everything that you just mentioned. It feels like we're getting there. We got the Emerald Trail coming in. We've got Riverfront Park coming in.
Yep.
The Mosh is going in. So it feels like we're in the right direction, right?
It does. Things take longer than we would like. So being patient and waiting is the hardest part. These things take time, and the better prepared you are when the opportunity reveals itself, the faster you can act on it.
So, all right, so on that point, when an opportunity is revealed, you have to be ready to act on it. Talk to me then about your view of the city's involvement or the government's involvement when you have a developer, say, that sees an opportunity and they're like, we want to do this. What is the government's role? What should the government's role be? Is our government doing enough? Not enough? Like, what you volunteer enough?
So yeah, and I talk with a lot of people that work in the development community. So I think generally speaking, they feel that the local government is supportive and wants to be helpful. Whether it's this administration or the last one, generally people are pro downtown.
Yep.
They want to see things happen. They don't want to just see a rendering. They want to see it go up.
Yeah.
There are some technical issues around the time it takes to get certain types of permits or to go through certain types of reviews, but I wouldn't say that those have prevented any significant projects. It's more of an obstacle to get through.
Yeah.
And I think that the local government's very aware of that, and they're trying to be as helpful as possible.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything that you would do different if you were mayor today?
I would.
And we're not. And Donna's great. Like we're not. I'm not getting political. It's
Sure.
just, if you ran and won for mayor, when Donna decides that she's out, what would you do different?
So I can't speak to that to all aspects, but I would put a higher priority on the quality of design.
Okay.
In public spaces.
Quality of design in public spaces.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Public spaces mean the parks,
streetscapes, the parks, what a person experiences when they are walking or driving or biking through an area. Right.
Okay.
So,
do you have an example? Like, is there a city that you can point to and say, oh man, those guys got it right?
So, so there's a lot of different cities that have made that investment. Obviously, the more wealthy cities, have that income to spend on those things, but also smaller cities like a Greenville, like a Chattanooga, like a Savannah, right?
Yeah.
They have prioritized kind of high quality public space, whether it's the design of their roads or the width of their sidewalks or the ratio and types of trees and shade or the maintenance of their public parks, right? And I know those things have improved, and they are improving here, which is fantastic. But if I could, wave my magic wand and do something better, it would be more funding for public spaces and more funding for the things that make Jacksonville unique. So that would include historic preservation,
which I know is near and dear to your heart, right?
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time volunteering in different roles regarding historic preservation, both in Springfield and now with the city's historic preservation commission. So I've spent, I don't know, about the last 15 years or so kind of diving into those issues. So there's a lot of room for investment there.
So you want to see more, or let me ask you, do you want to see more preservation of existing buildings versus Miami or anywhere in South Florida where if it's over 30 years you got to tear it down because it's old, right?
Sure.
Is that kind of what your stance is, that these buildings are worth saving?
Yeah, so obviously it's a case-by-case basis, and just because something's old doesn't make it unusually valuable, right?
Okay.
But
Fair.
Jacksonville is blessed with a lot of older housing and building stock that other, Florida cities would love to have because of the architecture and the character and those unique things, that you just can't find other places. So the city does have the fund to help historic projects in downtown.
Okay.
And in recent years, I think that they've been very good at utilizing that to help along kind of much needed, important adaptive reuse and renovation projects that otherwise just would not be viable. And outside of downtown, they've kind of just started a much smaller fund called the rehab program.
And is that for any building outside of downtown?
Yes.
San Marco, I would think.
Yeah. That would be for any historic designated building that is in danger.
Okay.
And that meets certain criteria. So there's very limited funding for that program right now. Last year was the first year of that. So I know a lot of people are hopeful that program will continue on and be helpful.
Yeah. You mentioned something a minute ago that I want to go back on, and this is a very, very, very tough question to answer, and there's probably no right answer, right? But you mentioned other cities who are wealthier, who are richer. You point to almost any other city, in Florida that has higher GDP than Jacksonville. How do we, as a metropolitan area, like how do we get more GDP? How do we get higher paying jobs?
Sure.
How do we do that as a community?
So the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund actually came out with a study a few years ago.
Okay.
The study was about the riverfront public spaces,
Okay.
and one of the key kind of lines was that quality public spaces attract quality talent, right? And so in the modern age, if talent can live where they like because of remote work, or this opportunity in this city versus another opportunity in another city, talent can go to where they have a better experience, right?
And that was through, I want to look this up because I think that's, I want to find that and have that as like a PDF attachment to our podcast if possible. You said that was through the Jesse Ball DuPont
the Jesse Ball DuPont Foundation. So
years
they facilitated a study on the riverfront when all of the discussions began about how do we best use all of this public space on the riverfront, and it was something like place attracts talent, talent generates jobs or
That's interesting.
something like that. Yeah.
Now we've got UF coming.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
to
fantastic.
town, right? That's got to be huge.
Yep.
We've got the Jaguars, the Jumbo Shrimp, the Icemen. Like we have a lot of those things.
Sure.
Greenville, South Carolina doesn't have those.
No, yeah.
But you know they've got a vibrant downtown.
Yeah, yeah.
How important are things like you know UF and La Villa
Sure.
and the Jags?
So I think they're very important for Jacksonville, right? So again, you can do downtown different ways.
Right.
Part of what makes downtown Jacksonville unique is its geographic size. So everything from the Riverside Arts Market to the Jaguars Stadium is technically considered part of downtown. So clustering people and businesses together is important, and that's usually what the smaller, vibrant cities do well. They cluster people together, and they provide those public spaces that people seek out.
Yep. Yep. So normally I probably wouldn't like ask this question or get this deep, but because it's your background, because it's your day job, helping the homeless, you know, the vets. Talk to me about the homeless situation in downtown. Not if you know anything about it professionally, but just kind of what are your thoughts personally on the homelessness downtown? Is it a problem? Are there ways that we can help them?
Yeah.
Like how do they fit into the discussion of downtown?
Sure. So almost every downtown of size is going to have issues with poverty and people with mental health problems.
Yep.
So what exacerbates things here in Jacksonville at this time is that there's not enough other people here to not observe all of those issues, right?
Sure.
Right. So if there's 50 people walking down a sidewalk, and one person obviously has some issues that need to be addressed, you may not notice that one person. You may not feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If there's, if it's just you and that person, then you may feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
So I think that's a part of it.
So then on that point, so then let me ask you this: is there, how do I say this? Is there a need to do anything about the homeless population?
Sure.
Or do we just keep them here, and then we just need more people, and then we won't see them as much?
Well, I think it's a combination.
I
of
want to
things.
want to help them. I want to help
Sure.
the situation.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a combination of things. There is a way to improve downtown and also improve the lives of those people that are in need at the same time. Part of the solution, in my opinion, again, not speaking for anybody else,
Bill's opinion only,
is deconsolidating all of the kind of the major homeless services from downtown. That's already happening, right? So Salzbacher is in the process of kind of moving their operation,
right.
Not too far, but
right.
not within downtown. Really, if you think about it, wherever you put a concentration of the services for people that are experiencing all of these kinds of horrible issues. Wherever you happen to put that that concentration, you are going to see more issues in that area. So there's nothing, about downtown in particular. It's just that all of those things have been concentrated into downtown for a long time.
Yeah.
But also funding for affordable housing and low-income housing. Those things are important. That's a nationwide issue.
It is.
That's an issue here in Jacksonville, and I know that both the mayor's office and city council are kind of looking at ways to move that forward. But there is a housing shortage. There is a housing shortage for people with a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And if you don't, want them to be experiencing all of those issues in public, then we got to find a way to get them housed where they are more stable and more comfortable, and where they are more receptive
and have the resources.
Yeah.
That goes along with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a very complex issue, because getting a roof over a person's head is not it's not the end. Many times people need help. They need counseling, or they need wraparound services, and that's expensive.
Yeah, sure.
That costs
Sure.
money. So
Sure. Well, we've covered a lot. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think is important, for downtown Jacksonville? Like any kind of closing remarks, so to speak, or?
Yeah. So just wanted to put out there that the Historic Preservation Commission of this city, I was lucky enough to serve as the chair of the task force on demolition by neglect. We just finished up that task force, made a presentation on that report earlier this week.
Okay.
And so I do think it's important for downtown and the other urban core neighborhoods that kind of surround downtown.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to saving those properties and those buildings that do have that unique character from owners who are kind of neglecting them to the point that the integrity of the building may fail. And while this is a problem all over Jacksonville, the historic buildings have been deemed by the community and the city as having an extra value to them because of the history that's happened there, or because of the architecture. So preventing those from going into such disrepair that they're in danger of being demolished was a priority for the Historic Preservation Commission, and we hope to see some of those recommendations in the report come to fruition.
Is the report available to the public?
It will be.
It will be?
It will be on the city's website soon.
Okay.
I believe on the Historic Preservation Commission webpage, I guess.
Okay.
But there were, I think, 19 different recommendations, some near term, some long term.
Okay.
Most just kind of policy.
Yeah.
Some may require legislation, but we just hope to see some of those happen.
Yeah. That's great. And God, thank you for all that you do. Like your volunteer work is unparalleled. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that volunteers more than you. So thank you.
Wow.
So I always try to close out with,
Sure.
with this question, and this is again a personal question for just you. But if there were a book written about you, what would the title be?
Well, I really love the quote from Theodore Roosevelt about the man in the arena. So I would say the title would be "It's Not the Critic Who Counts."
It's not the critic
who counts.
who counts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the beginning to that long quote, and that speaks to, there are a lot of people that like to comment on what should or shouldn't be done, but it's those that really put the time, put the effort, put the investment in, that are really kind of moving the needle.
Yeah.
Opinions are a dime a dozen, but the people that put in the time and the effort and the investment are not.
That's good. No, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. Very thoughtful. Well, listen, we appreciate the time. We'll let you get back to volunteering, and we'll post this out and send it to your network, and we'd love to keep the conversation going. If there's things that you come up with in the next months or years or whatever that you feel you want your story told, come back and we'll do this all again.
Thank you for highlighting some of the great things happening here.
Absolutely. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Of course.